Good afternoon. Uh, Dr. Chakravorty, I guess now you can unmute
Yeah, I
yourself.
can I can hear you. Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can you see me?
Yes, sir. You are
Yeah,
visible.
but I guess we don't need camera, right?
It's up to you, sir, completely.
Okay, let me set a background. Yeah, yeah. Can you see me now?
Yes, sir, you are visible.
Okay, hi.
Sir, actually, we will wait for another 3 to 4 minutes for more participants to join, and then
Sure,
we can
sure,
start, sir.
sure.
Good afternoon, participants. Now we will be heading towards the second session of the Faculty Development Program. I would like to invite our speaker, Professor Rajat Shubhro Chakraborty, who will be delivering his lecture on Overview of State of the Art of Secure Computing. Dr. Chakraborty is currently working as professor at the CSE department of IIT Kharagpur. He received his PhD from Case Western Reserve University and BE from Jadavpur University. He has a professional experience of working at Intel, National Semiconductor, and Advanced Micro Devices. His research interests include hardware security, VLSI design and design automation, digital content protection, and digital image forensics. He holds 2 granted US patents, 2 granted Indian patents, and has co-authored 6 books, 10 book chapters, and over 120 publications in international journals and conferences. His work has received over 6,500 citations till date, and a paper co-authored by him won the Best Paper Award at the IWDW16 workshop. He has received several prestigious national and international awards such as IIT Kharagpur Outstanding Faculty Award 2018, IEI Young Engineers Award 2016, IBM Shared University Research Award 2015, Royal Academy of Engineering UK RECI Fellowship 2014, and IBM Faculty Award 2012. He is currently an associate editor of IEEE TCAD Journal and has previously been an associate editor of IEEE TMSCS Journal. Professor Chakraborty is a senior member of IEEE and senior member of ACM. Sir, we are lucky to have you here with us. The platform is all yours, and you may now start the session.
Okay, thank you for the kind invitation. Good afternoon, participants. So let me share my screen and please let me know whether you can see my screen. Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Visible? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, and I'm happy to deliver this talk today. Thanks for inviting me. And the title of my talk is today is an overview of state of the art of secure computing. So I will try to touch upon certain aspects of secure computing, particularly on the hardware side. And in the hardware side, I'll particularly concentrate on ensuring whether a given computing platform or the components of that platform, for example, integrated circuits, whether they can be trusted or not. Okay, what do I mean by a piece of electronics being trustable or non-trustable will be clear once we go deeper in the talk. My primary area of research is hardware security, so this talk will essentially be focused on uh, exploring the different topics of research in hardware security, particularly with respect to ensuring the trustability of computing platforms. I'll start with certain aspects, general historical perspective of secure computing, uh, starting from the very basics, like what is a computer, give a snapshot of how computers have evolved from ancient times up to the 21st century and the need for secure computing. Then I'll move to, in general, to the topic of information security and secure computing. With the goals, again, I'll provide an historical perspective. In particular, I'll touch upon the art of cryptography. I will discuss the types of cryptographic algorithms and finish with certain example real life applications, which I hope all of you would be familiar with. Finally, we'll come to platform specific security, that is hardware platform specific security. There we will try to cover uh, types of attacks in on hardware platforms, and in particular three types of attacks: hardware trojans, physically unclonable functions, and counterfeit integrity circuits. So let's start. Uh, I would request you to, uh, if you have any questions, because I'm using a full screen mode, uh, just to interrupt me. Uh, just turn on your mic and interrupt me if you have any question. And also at the end of the talk, we will have a dedicated question answer session. There also you can ask your questions. So first we start with the concept of a digital computer. Okay, so the computer has evolved over the years, as you will find very soon when we go through some history. However, in general, the modern most accepted definition of a most general definition of a digital computer, and by computer in general nowadays we mean digital computers. Okay, I mean there are certain historical examples as well as current examples of analog computers also, and some non-traditional computing devices. For example, computing done using biological organisms, etc. But we will not go into those esoteric topics. We will stick to traditional digital computers. So, a modern digital computer is a programmable electronic device capable of storing and processing digitized information. This is the most simple and most general description of a modern computer. Okay, it stores information, digitized information, and it processes digitized information. However, you'd be surprised to know, if you are not aware of this history, that the history of uh, processing information, at least not so much of storing, but at least processing information, it goes back thousands of years. Okay, so computers were not always programmable, nor electronic, nor digital. Okay, so the examples that we will go through uh, do not have all of these three keywords as features. Okay, but they will have some features which by modern concept of a computer would lead us to believe that these were also early variants of computers. Let us see examples. The first one is very famous. It's called the abacus, which was developed in China about 2000 BC. It can do very fast uh, arithmetic computations, and even multiplications. Actually, if you are a skilled user, integer multiplications also it can do faster than handheld calculators. If you think of usage, means usage speed, or all these things, it's an amazing device. It is still used. Uh, then comes something called Pascaline. This was developed by Pascal, the I think the famous scientist and mathematician. Uh, it was developed in 1642. I believe the history behind this is that Pascal's father was some sort of a bureaucrat in a tax collector's position. So he had to do a lot of tax collection and he had to do many calculations manually. To reduce his labor, the young Pascal created this machine. It's a gear-based system, mechanical calculator. Of course, electricity was not there. It is still usable amazingly, and it could do fast addition and subtraction with multiplication and division done through repeated additions and subtractions, which is also quite amazing. And till about end 1980s, on most traditional CPUs, this was the only way actually to do multiplication and division, unless you had something called arithmetic coprocessor as additional chips, which you could pay extra money and buy and install on your motherboard. where the CPU, which had dedicated hardware to do fast arithmetic and floating point integer and floating point arithmetic, and the CPU would designate or delegate any such computation to that additional co-processor IC. However, starting from about the late 80s, early 90s time, the CPUs themselves started having this uh, arithmetic units which could perform complex arithmetic, for example, integer multiplication, division, and floating point operations inside itself. So there was no separate need for any chip. And now all modern CPUs processors that you get in the market have that. This is also amazing. Another amazing machine called Jacquard's Loom. It's not really a general purpose calculator which outputs numbers. By computer or calculator we mean something which inputs numbers, which takes numbers of input and then outputs numbers. This is not exactly like that. The unique feature it had was that it was programmable through a sequence of input punch cards. Through these punch cards, you could tell the machine which pattern to weave, okay, on the fabric. Okay, so this is a very complex mechanical weaving machine, which is quite amazing because you still see manual weaving machines in handlooms. Like this is handloom, right? So this is not power driven. Uh, or electricity driven. Maybe it was power driven because there were looms which were driven by water power, etc., or steam power. But I don't think this is of that nature. But this was one of the first devices which is programmable. Okay.
Dr. Chakraborty, sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
I guess the slide is not moving.
Slide is not moving. So
Uh,
which slide?
right now we can see the computer in 19th century slide, but it was earlier the introduction slide only.
Okay, I think so. The problem that is coming is that maybe the full version is not working. Can you
Right,
you can still see it, right? Okay.
yes,
Did you
yes,
miss to see the previous slide? Like
right,
in
right,
this
right.
Pascaline, did you see this? The
No,
one
no,
I'm
no, no,
showing.
sir.
Okay,
We
so
have
this is the
missed.
Pascaline machine invented by Pascal, which was a gear-based mechanical calculator, which I was mentioning. And did you see this slide, the abacus slide?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is an abacus which is still used. Oh, so basically after I mean the first slides, maybe you haven't. This is an abacus. This is the Pascaline, which is still usable apparently. I don't know in which museum it is, but this is the information I got that it is still usable. Museum copy is still usable. This is the Jacquard's loop, which is a programmable mechanical loom. Okay, so which can weave complex patterns based on input instructions that you provide through punch cards. Punch cards later on were also accepted as the standard way to uh, provide input to computers. Okay. Then we come to computers in the 19th century, which got more and more complicated. Okay. So what happened was that the need for doing plenty of complicated calculations arose. Okay. Why did so much need to do plenty of complicated calculations arose? For many reasons, international trade increased, international military expeditions and geographical expeditions increased, where you needed to do complex trigonometric calculations, complex arithmetic calculations, etc., very, very commonly and in huge numbers. Okay, especially if you are working in survey kind of fields, you require to do plenty of calculations. And 19th century was the age of discovery, right? So you were discovering new land masses almost every day, and those needed to be surveyed, and all these things had to be. Say, for example, the calculations leading to the, I mean, discovery that Mount Everest is probably the highest peak in the world. all these things were essentially a lot of calculations were. So Babbage, Charles Babbage was a great engineer, come scientist, come mathematician, whatever you can call him, all packed into one. In the 19th century in Great Britain, and he developed two machines. He developed many systems, mechanical systems of calculations, but the primary he is known for two systems. One is called the difference engine, which essentially is a mechanical calculator to evaluate polynomials. And if you can evaluate polynomials, then by truncated approximate Taylor series representations, you can evaluate many logarithmic, trigonometric, etc. functions, right? So by truncating the series after certain number of terms. So this was actually widely used. I believe he made it primarily uh, for the survey type of calculations or astronomical calculations or something, things like that. But it was widely used. The even more impressive machine was which he developed later on in around 1837. This was called the analytical engine, and this many people believe was the first system, complete system, which is comparable to stored program computer. Okay, so you could write the program in a series of punch cards with small holes in it, which encoded what operations you needed to do on what data. And this system had the hardware units to read those punch cards. Everything was mechanical, okay? But then it had an instruction set defining that, okay, I can do these operations, and you have these are encoded in this way, which must be encoded on the punch card in this way, etc. Exactly the thing that normal computers, modern computers have. It had an arithmetic logic unit or ALU dedicated to doing arithmetic calculations. It had amazingly support for branching and loops, etc. That is for what we nowadays call control flow. Okay, and this amazingly, remember, this was a fully mechanical device. Okay, electricity probably had not become that common. At least commercially, I don't think it was available in 1837. The lady Countess Ada Lovelace, who I believe was the daughter of a famous English poet, probably Byron or somebody. She published a program to calculate Bernoulli numbers, which are a series of numbers named after Bernoulli, who worked on them. And this is recognized. I mean, that program was directed for this computer. Okay, so in modern terms, we would say that she wrote an assembly language program to calculate something on directing a particular instruction set. For example, an ARM assembly language program, or a RISC-V assembly language program, or a x86 assembly language program, etc. She just wrote it for this, the assembly language that was available for this. Manuals were published, and she followed the manuals and wrote the program. It was a correct program actually to calculate the numbers. Okay, so many people call her the first computer programmer, and the programming language Ada, if you have heard of it, very, I mean, quite old and probably not used that much, was named in her honor. But from this, I mean, there is, see, if I try to cover all history, it will become very long. I'll just say that let us directly jump in a way to the 21st century, because the 20th century computer went such a huge transformation that if we go step by step to that, it will take up an entire, probably a week to cover. Just to keep it short, that quantum computer technology, electronic computer technology became mainstream from about, I won't say mainstream, but at least their usage started from about Second World War, that is early 40s kind of period. The computers that were used to design uh, the calculations that led to the design and implementation of atom bomb in the US, the Manhattan Project. Nowadays, this movie is playing Oppenheimer, which probably captures a lot of the history. Those were provided by IBM actually. Okay. Later on, in parallel, many other countries also developed computers. In UK was one of the leaders, pioneers in computer development. Development also happened in Germany, Holland, USA. Mark One was probably the first so-called modern computer commercially available, which was developed, I believe, at University of Pennsylvania. And all these things started, and then after the development of transistors, computers had a huge again jump in popularity, because earlier days computers, if you have seen pictures, they used to require rooms, full rooms to hold them. Okay, air conditioned facilities. They were based on valves which used to generate tremendous amount of heat and consume tremendous amount of electricity. Most of the computers required a small power station dedicated to just to run it. Those things change when solid state devices became common, with transistors in around late 40s. And with that, everything dramatically became smaller. The power consumptions reduced dramatically, and electronics in general had a revolutionary change. In the From about the early 70s onwards, the CMOS complementary MOS technology, MOSFET based technology, and later on complementary MOS technology, CMOS, started becoming common. They took over the field from the original transistors, and since then we have been having CMOS, and there has been a revolution supported by the so-called Moore's law, where you can fit in large number of transistors in a chip. Okay. At the heart of these computers are many integrated circuits, that is, circuits which come as a single chip and incorporates very complex functionality, memory, processors, and all other circuits that you can think of. Uh, if the modern computers come in bewildering variety, although the basic principles of their operation are surprisingly remained similar for the last 50, 60 years. However, they do come in many varieties: desktop computers, all-in-one computers, tabs, smartphones, laptops, servers, whatever you can think of. Okay, and the name computer nowadays, earlier it meant that essentially it's an accelerator that helps you to compute something, to do mathematical computation. That role is becoming limited. Of course, it is still used to perform a lot of mathematical computations. That is not probably the primary goal. For example, you don't carry a laptop or a smartphone or a tab, which are perfect computers in every way to do complicated mathematical computations. So that name probably has become a little confusing about what a modern computer does. Essentially, most majority of computers are needed to access information on the internet. Sorry, there's a typo here. Information on the internet, and multimedia and entertainment. I mean, if you ask an average person, tell me the last time you executed a program on a computer. Most people, 95, 99% of people say, I have never executed any program on any computer. Executed means your own written program. They just say, I just use it as a device for communication, to do my daily work, write letters, compose letters, send emails, connect with family, do video chat, do audio chat, watch a movie either online, watch videos either online or locally, this kind of things. So the scope has completely changed. Okay, this has been made possible by the exponential growth of internet penetration throughout the world and the fast pace of VLSI technology development. which was enabled very, very powerful integrated circuits to be available at relatively low cost. Okay. But this has also led to grave concerns about security in computing. Okay. And for this, we must understand what is information security. The moment you say that I want to connect with many other people, okay, most of you either don't know or you cannot read their mind that what exactly do they want to do. Okay, first of all, you don't even know whether there is a human being sitting on the other side, right, of a connection. You are just connecting with a server or something and getting your information, right, whether that is authentic information, whether it's maliciously incorrect information. Okay, these things have to be first checked. Okay, so in information security, three concepts are very important. Okay, three goals in modern information security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means is the information secret? Okay, what do I mean by secret? Can anybody else look at the information that is flowing into my computer and going out of my computer by whatever channel? Currently, I am connected to the internet through a Wi-Fi network. Maybe some of you are connected through Wi-Fi, some of you are connected through a wired Ethernet cable. Doesn't matter. Whatever information is flowing through this network, can others read it in plain text and get all the information that is traveling to and fro? Like it's bad, right? You are saying, suppose in the old days when you used to send letters, okay, maybe you still send letters, but it has become very rare. If you send letters, you would put it in an envelope or seal it in a way such that others would not be able to read the content of a letter. Content of a letter is personal. It is not supposed to be read by anybody else other than the recipient of the letter. It's exactly the same concept exists for uh, information that when your computer is connected to a network. So this is the C for confidentiality. Second is integrity. Is the information authentic? Okay. For example, you log into a website, you think it is the your e-banking website, whatever bank you might have an account, State Bank of India, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, doesn't matter. How do you know that this is actually the website of State Bank of India? Because these things can be faked and spoofed, and you land up at an completely different website which actually looks like State Bank of India, but it is not State Bank of India. It has been made to look like an SBI website. For this, you need, so basically you need to ensure that whether the information with the party with whom you would be able to or you want to communicate, is that party authentic, and is the information that you are going to receive from that party, is that believable? So both are important problems. Unfortunately, we will not have too much time to go into the depth of, because these are deep topics of cryptography, and each of these takes a lot of time to explain. However, we will touch upon a situation where you need to say you need to authenticate whether a given piece of hardware is authentic. Okay, not the communicating party as such, but given a given IC is authentic. That you can try to do. That is what we will describe later. Availability. So this is integrity for I. Okay, I for integrity. Then is A for availability. What is availability? Availability is the question of that can I access the secure information on demand, or say I want to access the secure information, but I am called, you can only access it between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning. No other time. So out of 24 hours, you can only access this for 1 hour, and for the remaining 23 hours, you have no ability to check whether everything is okay. Like say you want to check your bank account balance. Okay. You check it, you can only check it between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. between 8 a.m. and the next day 7 a.m. you cannot check it. So why would you accept that? You would say that no, what's this? I mean, sometimes the bank servers can be down for 15, 20 minutes, 1 hour, etc. But if you say that every day I can only check my bank account balance for only 1 hour in a day, that's not fair. Because then I would not be able to monitor all the transactions that are happening. How can you be sure that my account is secure, right? So this should not be the case, and it should always be available for you to, or an authentic party, to actually be able to access the information. Okay, so let us try to understand the CIA principle. The example I am going to give is through a common example which all of you have used, which is the password management in an operating system. In particular, I am choosing Linux, but it can apply for other systems like Windows or Mac OS X, etc. Whatever, it doesn't matter. What happened is that important user account is stored in readable form in a text file which is to be found under /etc directory called passwd. This folder actually stores. Now each user that is listed in this file has an entry in another text file called /etc/shadow. These text files are readable by everybody, but they are not writable by everyone. Okay, only some agents, maybe the operating system, can actually modify the contents of this file. Others can see it but cannot modify. So what is confidential? The confidentiality is that my password will be stored securely. Okay, so to ensure that the etc shadow file does not store the password directly, but it stores the hash value of it. I hope all of you are familiar with the concept of hash, called a cryptographic hash. Cryptographic hash are specially constructed secure hashes which have some nice security properties. These are which has been derived from the password. Okay. So what you do, you actually do something else. You concatenated a value called a salt value. Okay. Which is a random value, might be different for every password. Then you perform a cryptographic hash and then store the hash password. Okay, the cryptographic hash function ensures that this scheme is secure even though the salt value is made public. You can make the salt value public, doesn't matter. Still, the scheme remains secure because from the hash password, it is impossible to find out what was the password even if the salt value is known. The reverse mapping is impossible to do or computationally infeasible. Okay. Okay. How do you ensure that the contents of this etc shadow file is authentic? Okay. So it is readable and writable only by the root. Okay. Small change in the password, your password, will cause plenty of changes in the hash value, making it easy to detect. The hash value will change enormously even if you change only one character or one letter in your password. Hash functions have been designed in that way that it will also this type of uh, 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 like any small modification in its input will cause huge amount of change in its output. Finally, availability. They cannot be made inaccessible, for example, by deleting by an entity other than the root, the administrator actually of the system. So ordinary user cannot just go in and say, okay, I'll delete it and stop every other person from logging into the system from now on. That cannot happen. You would not be able to do it. Neither would you be able to edit it. Okay, contents cannot be changed. Among all of this, CI and A, confidential and integrity, are the most important requirements. And I was just listening. If C and I can be ensured, then A can also probably be ensured in most cases. I do not have any theoretical proof of this, but I guess that's the case. Okay. Now let's come to the concept of cryptography, which I believe many of you or probably all of you have taken courses, or maybe you are teaching thing. So you have a decent knowledge, or you have taken a course if you are a student. So you have decent knowledge of this topic. Typically, this topic in undergrad curriculum is covered in networks, computer networks, and this type of subjects. And also, there might be other dedicated papers or cryptography. The basic idea is that two entities A and B are trying to communicate with each other. So, in cryptography literature, these 2 points A and B have been given names Alice and Bob, and that has become standard. Okay, every book, every paper uses this terminology of Alice and Bob as two arbitrary parties trying to communicate. However, there is a bad, evil party called Eve. So that party is evil, or a eavesdropper. Whatever, eavesdropper is somebody who is listening to the communication. In Bengali, what we call the Aripata. So that eavesdropper party is called Eve, and Eve is trying to listen to whatever Alice and Bob are uh, telling each other. So in this case, they show the unidirectional communication where Alice is sending some stuff to Bob. Now, to ensure that Eve would not be able to extract any information from whatever is being sent, Alice uses an encryption algorithm, okay, using a secret which has been pre-shared with Bob called a key, and it takes the message which is in plain text, that is something which is humanly readable, and with the key it changes it to a form which is either not humanly readable, or it is humanly readable but without any sense. This process is called encryption. Then the encrypted message, which is called a ciphertext, is transmitted over an insecure channel. The eavesdropper always is listening to the insecure channel and trying to figure out what information is being transferred from one point to the other. Okay, so in our secure communication over a network, if you are using the HTTPS protocol, which would show a locked like a locked sign on your URL bar, address bar, that means the communication is secure. And currently, although you can read everything in plain text on your browser, when the communication is happening between your machine and the server at remote place, wherever it is, far away, in between the communication is encrypted. Okay, that is guaranteed. Okay, so this is similar, just that it does not mention exactly how the information is getting transmitted, whether it is over radio wave, whether it is through telephone wire, electrical signal, those, whether it is through a satellite connection, that is not very clear. However, what is common is that only ciphertexts are getting transmitted. At the receiver end, the decryption operation, which is the reverse of encryption, is performed using the same key. And if you perform the same decryption operation on the given ciphertext using the same key, you will get back exactly the same plain text that you started with. Okay, so this is quite simple and very elegant way of proceeding with things, or with a system that can ensure security. Just one issue is that the key needs to be the same on both the sides. Okay, so that means that Bob also needs to know about this key. Okay, so there are techniques by which we can ensure that. And you should note that cryptography is kind of the bedrock of secure computing. Okay, if cryptography did not exist, or good cryptographic schemes did not exist, then secure computing would not have existed. Cryptography makes everything possible, and progress in cryptography also is responsible for so much of progress in providing remote access to family members and everything else. Okay, internet banking and all these things. The underlying confidence that those systems have is that, well, we have cryptography on our side. Cryptography is helping us to ensure that everything is fine. So this is very important. Okay. By the way, the word cryptography comes from Greek, and it essentially means secret writing. Cryptos and graphia, I think, which means secret writing. The strength of cryptographic algorithms, if it's a good algorithm, it ensures that just by noting the ciphertext, the eavesdropper Eve, like Alice, would not be able to get all the plain text corresponding to a ciphertext. Okay, if someone does not know the key, there is no way you can find out what was the plain text from the ciphertext. That is the assumption, or that is what is ensured in cryptography. Now, cryptography also has a very interesting history, ranging, I mean, at least 2000 years or more, ranging from Rome, where apparently Julius Caesar, the Roman dictator, he developed something called Caesar's cipher during his lifetime, and it was primarily used for military communication, a relatively simple mathematical structure, which I'll not go into the mathematics of cryptographical algorithms now, because that itself again is going to be a hugely time consuming exercise, because there are many schemes have been developed from the earliest times, like say 2000 years back up to recent times, and we cannot mention that. So anyways, uh, this classical cryptographic techniques were started with like this Arab mathematicians made a lot of progress in trying to analyzing this. Okay, great progress was again made during World War II, particularly in Poland and Great Britain. In Great Britain, Alan Turing, who is called the father of modern computer science or computing, was actually involved in breaking the German ciphers, which went a long way in interpreting German messages, which helped Great Britain to defeat Germany. Otherwise, actually, Germany was in better shape than the Allied powers. The Axis power was in better shape during for a large part of World War II. But what turned the tide was that in the Atlantic, where the German warships were going, I have can't connect. Yes. Okay. So uh, he analyzed this. Turing broke this enigma, which was a complex German cryptographic scheme. Now, if you look at the mathematics of these schemes, okay, they were solid, but the breaking of the schemes was relatively easy. Okay, I'm not saying breaking of Enigma was easy, because it was a quite complex cipher, and trying to break it required quite advanced statistical techniques, which is taught in cryptography courses nowadays, and it's a very instructive and interesting how those were broken. But if you look at the theory, mathematical theory behind the development of these ciphers classically, there wasn't much theory actually. So this started to change from about the second half of the 1940s, particularly by Shannon. This Shannon is a very famous person who had done a lot of work different areas, and he revolutionized the field by putting it on a firm mathematical footing. Okay, what is secrecy? What is perfect secrecy? What do you mean by the amount of information available? Okay, what do you mean by entropy in the context of cryptography? All these things are formally derived actually mathematically. Okay, another great break came, and which we just touch upon that in the mid 1970s, when public key cryptography came into the picture. Okay, so this is also something that we should focus on. Whatever I have described till now, on and even till today, by classical cryptographic algorithms, it is meant that the two parties, Alice and Bob, who are, one of them is doing encryption and the other is doing decryption, must have a shared common secret called a key. Okay, this is practically problematic, because how will you share the key between Alice and Bob? That question is not answered here. How are you going to share your key? Are you going to send a letter to the other party? But that letter can be intercepted. Are you going to call him up separately and tell him that this is going to be our secret key? But then that call might be intercepted. Okay. Are you going to write it on a piece of paper and hand it over to the other person saying this is going to be our key? Even that might be intercepted, etc. etc. So, best option is that you have every party has a pair of keys called a public key and a private key. Okay. Here, you look at the right half of the diagram. In asymmetric key cryptography, every party has two keys. One of them, the private key, he uses to encrypt. And sorry, one of them, the public key, which is provided by the other party. Say Alice has two keys. Alice has a public key and Alice has a private. Alice's public key, Alice makes public to the entire world, saying, if you want to send me a message, then you must use my public key and a given algorithm to encrypt. Okay. Don't worry how I will decrypt it. At my end, I will decrypt it. So Bob uses Alice's public key to encrypt the message, but then Alice can decrypt it at her end using her secret private key. And it was a quite complicated concept actually, because it's not at all intuitive, right? You will encrypt something. Bob will encrypt something which is completely different from the key with which it will be decrypted. The public key and private key usually are related to each other. They are not like completely independent of each other. There is a relationship between them depending on the scheme, which makes this possible. But it is quite magical. Actually, when this was first proposed, many people did not believe that this can happen and this will happen. Okay, so there is another variation of this asymmetric cryptography, or another technique called a key exchange. In key exchange, you perform precisely the task of basically ensuring that the key that is given to Alice and Bob, you can share a key between these two parties. Okay, you can ensure that Alice and Bob will exactly have the same key. So typically, how algorithms, cryptographic schemes work nowadays is that because the public key algorithms are quite computationally inefficient and very heavy, you first use it to uh, share a small key with each other, and then you use private key cryptography or symmetric key cryptography to communicate with each other. Okay, so this is how you proceed. So both are used, but each complements each other. You first use public key cryptography to share the key, and then this using this green secret key on the left side figure, you use that technique using the same key to encrypt and decrypt messages. Okay, as I said that for a secure web page access, you would typically find this closed lock kind of a symbol, and the protocol will be HTTPS. Okay. And this is all implemented using asymmetric cryptography. It ensures the key exchange between your server and your browser. And then how do you know that, well, this is a trustable thing? Because you have a digital certificate that this website has, which is issued by a trusted authority, which ensures that this is the actual SBI website and not a fake website. Okay, so there is, again, I'll not go into the details because that's quite complicated, describing what is a public key infrastructure and how digital certificates and all these things are distributed, etc. But this is how the world internet works actually. So next we come to cloud computing, which is a different form of computing. Okay, uh, here you have on a virtualized platform typically many applications running on a cloud, and you as a user you adopt a pay-as-you-go model where you use ordinary computers with not much resource simply to add on to the count, authenticate yourself, and then you take advantage of whatever service you need. Okay, that service can be related to machine learning, can be related to databases, can be related to doing financial calculations, anything can be related to doing network, the GUI development or programming, whatever you want to do, you do. Just that you pay for exactly whatever usage you have done on that system, and you don't need to pay extra money to maintain the entire computing infrastructure in your office or your home or whatever. Okay, this is particularly suitable for small users and small businesses who do not have the resources to support full-fledged computing infrastructure but still needs the services. For example, services like Amazon, AWS, or Google Colab, etc., have revolutionized machine learning type applications where now an ordinary student can either pay some money or get some free credits and do his or her computations, quite heavy machine learning computations on these platforms provided by third party cloud service providers. Okay, so this is extremely important. Now, ensuring security here for the cloud service provider is a big issue, because every user would want, currently the say one server has a cloud computing infrastructure where 100 users are logged in and working. Okay, every user wants to ensure that their instances of their virtual machines that are running on the cloud are isolated from each other. But remember that all of these virtualized systems that are running on the cloud, they are accessing the same physical resource. For example, they are accessing the same DRAM. The server only has certain amount of DRAM, but that is shared between all the applications among all the virtual instances that are being run there. So ensuring security, that is ensuring the privacy and authenticity, confidentiality, authenticity, availability of my data from others is a very very important task. Okay, and for that there are many other techniques that have been proposed. With one is fully homomorphic encryption, where you can do full-fledged computations on encrypted data. Okay, and the other is confidential computing, where with additional software, for example operating system module support and architectural support, it you can sandbox your application, you can isolate your application so that other applications cannot perform read or write operations on portions of memory that you are interested in. So this is something called confidential computing. Examples are SGX and TDX from secure guard extensions and trusted domain extensions from Intel, which are present on all Intel Xeon series processors nowadays. Now let's come till now. We have been giving a very high level overview, and let us now come to some concrete hardware threats. As I mentioned, I will go through three different threats. Okay, first of all, you have to understand why do these hardware threats arise. You have to remember that even in a big country like India, the computers that we are all of us are currently using, they were maybe assembled in India. Sometimes they were not even assembled; they were just brought from completely full computer was brought from a from a different foreign country. Most importantly, most of the components or all the components of these computers were made outside India. For example, it is guaranteed that there is not even a single chip or integrated circuit in a modern laptop that is manufactured in India, because India does not have any integrated circuit manufacturing facility other than one facility in Chandigarh which does some small quantity manufacturing for some government clients, etc. So that's a quite bad state of affairs. Along with that, when you try to develop integrated circuits, the flow that is shown in this diagram becomes important. Here, different stages have been shown with different color codes. The green stages are completely trustable, the yellow ones are partially trustable, and the red ones are where you are involving many third-party vendors into the design. They are providing you with services, CAD tools, and other IP building hardware IP blocks, which are like standard hardware blocks that can become part of your design. But they can do plenty of harm also, because you are giving your computer access to this thing. Anyways, and then finally, packaging, testing, etc. These were earlier thought to be perfectly trusted. Even the research later has shown even these are not trusted, and secret information, for example, a cryptographic key that is stored in an IC can be retrieved by this. Now, this technique of inserting some bad circuit in an IC, similar to software Trojan viruses that you see, there are hardware Trojans. Okay, do they really exist? Nobody knows whether they do, but it has been thought that through this fab, by direct modification of the design, or through this during the design phase itself, some bad modifications might be done which will evade the testing phase later on, and then it will get deployed, and then it will do many bad things. So both government as well as private agencies are looking into this. They develop hardware trojans, they try to detect hardware trojans, etc., etc. They are very concerned, and billions are actually spent on in India. Um, this is great. Spent on this topic in R&D, not only in India but around the world. The Ministry of Telecommunication and Ministry of Power in India proactively wants the testing and certification of all important equipment prior to deployment. They are hardware Trojan free. That's a very tough thing to do. Okay. Their malicious modifications to designs can take either pre or post manufacturing, and they are inserted by intelligent attackers, and they are extremely small hardware foot overhead. They are difficult to catch because they are stealthy, but they can have potentially disastrous consequences. For example, an entire national power grid might come down, military installation might fail, communication infrastructure might fail. This can lead to loss of human life and property, and billions of dollars in lost property and infrastructure. Why are they difficult to catch? Because there is no silver bullet technique available currently. Silver bullet technique means an technique which is sure to succeed. Okay, and that is not available currently. They have huge variety, arbitrarily complex behavior. Most proposed techniques nowadays cannot guarantee any Trojan detection, and they can only provide confidence levels. Okay, they are prone to false positives, like saying, yes, this is a hardware Trojan, where actually it isn't a hardware Trojan. Okay. And then they also do not have the resolution to pinpoint the Trojan location. Okay. Uh, so many of them have unprecedented design overhead. In fact, as I said, that see, if your IC is getting fabricated to such a complex method, and IC has plenty of things inside it, okay, already providing you with plenty of functionality. If you want to modify the design further just to protect it against an hardware trojan, it's not easy. Okay, you often do not have even sufficient space on your IC to fit everything. Okay, many of them are based on simple computer simulations, and they ignore experimental sources of error. Uh, the Trojan detection, whether they will actually work, never been validated experimentally. So these are also not very sure. For example, some people say that I'll just keep on looking at the amount of current consumed by my IC. If I find that has gone up, then I will predict that there is a hardware Trojan. But the current that is being consumed in an IC is not constant. It has variations. Okay, it goes through variations naturally. It can go through variation not because just there was a hardware Trojan inside it. Okay, it can be because of other reasons also. So these are some examples of hardware Trojans where basically I'll just quickly go through them. I'll not cover all of them. In the first one I can go through. It is an AND gate, and the nodes A and B go to logic 0 very rarely. Okay, they are very rarely at logic 0. At the bottom there is a NOR gate. If A and B goes at logic 0, it taps this NOR gate taps this node, and if A and B go at logic 0, then the output of the NOR gate is 1, which modifies the output of the node C to C modified, and as a result you find that the C modified and C values are different from each other only under the condition when A and B are both zeros. Okay, so if that is rare, then it will be very, very difficult to catch this type of a Trojan. Okay, so information leakage Trojan, say the top one, if certain values at certain internal nodes of your circuit at some particular value of your 32-bit integer unit, then the Trojan gets activated and tries to tap the bus and get the key for encrypting something using your AES encryption hardware engine, and it can leak this through the serial port. So this kind of things might happen. Okay, these all the examples I gave are actually implemented Trojans. Okay, there are many approaches of Trojan detection, both mainstream and non-mainstream. Destructive is like I'll just destroy the IC to see if there is a Trojan inside it, but that is not a very good technique. Non-mainstream is non-destructive, where you try to perform some sort of characterization on testing to find out whether there is a Trojan inside. The current research focus is the development of a Trojan circuit benchmark suite at different levels of design abstraction. For example, some have been made and publicly available at this website trust-hub.org. And then Trojan insertion by malicious EDA CAD tools. This is a very important topic because we blindly trust the software we are using in designing the hardware Trojans. For example, I'll give you an example from another domain. When you are writing a piece of code, have you ever thought of the possibility that the final binary that will be generated will have a bug in it, not because of your fault, but because the compiler will intentionally insert a bug in it? We have not thought of this possibility. What we think is, if we write a buggy program, this is because the human programmer has made a mistake, after which it was compiled and it generated an executable which has a bug in it. And if you try to execute it, that bug, if it gets activated, will cause a malfunction in your system. But have you ever thought of this possibility that, if you are using, say, common open source compiler tools like, say, GCC, G++, etc., that they might themselves not be perfected. There is something malicious inside them. They would do something bad by inserting additional code in your binary, etc. The binary is being. This is quite bad. I don't know whether this has been explored that much. I don't believe it has. But this is a serious threat because the CAD tools used in the IC industry are all closed source and extremely expensive and complicated CAD tools. What they are actually doing in the background is very difficult to chart. And then the development of a complete Trojan resistant design flow. It's a design for security type of paradigm where you say that, from a priori, from the very beginning, my design will be such that it will be difficult to modify it by inserting a hardware Trojan inside it. This is quite challenging because the Trojans come in a bewildering variety of modes, and it is not very easy to make changes. Come up with a design that will be secure because all sort of Trojans. Okay, there is also focus on side channel analysis where you try to improve the detection by embedding additional circuitry, by measuring power measurements, etc. Delay, how much delay your circuit is having, etc. kind of things. Machine learning has been used to denoise this and increase the efficiency and sensitivity of the schemes. Logic testing based schemes have been used, but they are ineffective in detecting the information leakage Trojans. The Trojans can leak information, but if they do not cause any malfunction, in that case, logic testing based techniques are not very effective in detecting logic testing. But They can play a supportive role in side chain analysis to enhance the hardware Trojan detection sensitivity of those techniques. Okay. So hardware threats can be of many different types. Hardware Trojans we already covered. Malicious firmware is possible, like the code that you have in your ROMs in your systems. Counterfeit hardware is also possible, which we will also touch upon. A counterfeit hardware is like uh, mm, is the hardware we have, is that authentic? So we'll try to see whether there are techniques to detect that. First, let me give you examples of counterfeit integrated circuits. Currently, it is estimated that globally 30% or more of all ICs that have been deployed currently in circulation in the market or deployed all over the world are counterfeit. Okay, so this is quite scary. If someone tells you that 1 out of 3 notes that you get from the ATM on average are counterfeit notes, would you be happy about it? You would be very, very scared and concerned, right? This is the situation with integrated circuits, unfortunately. There is no way even to check, at least for a note, if the note comes out of an ATM or you get a note from some person in a shop across, like from a bank counter, you can at least touch it and then maybe you can ask experts to check whether it is authentic or not. Unfortunately, ICs come as already prepackaged inside uh, electronic devices. For example, there are many integrated circuits inside a laptop or a tab or a smartphone. How many of us actually open it and check it individually that every IC whether it is counterfeit or not? It's not possible. Probably nobody does it. The below pictures are examples of 4 counterfeit ICs. The ones on the left, I think it's small, so maybe you would not be able to read it, but later on maybe you can have a look. These are all, by the way, taken from public websites. Okay, there is a URL given. It lists give these examples. In the example on the left, you have 2 ICs which have the same batch number, same company, same model number. If the batch number is the same, then by definition the country of manufacturing must be the same. However, uh, here the country of manufacturing are shown to be different. One is USA and the other is Malaysia. That means that at least one of the ICs is counterfeit, maybe both are counterfeit. The second one is an example where paint has got smeared on the surface. How did paint get smeared? This is a IC from a company called Maxim, which does not exist anymore, but was a very, very reputed manufacturer of integrated circuits. So what has happened is they have scavenged this IC from some PCB. Then they have tried to make it new looking by painting it with white paint. During painting it with white paint, like writing the letters, the paint has got smeared. Okay. Maxim is such a big and famous company that they would never ever send this type of ICs out for circulation with such poor finish. So definitely this is counterfeit. This marking imperfection. Then the indents are notch matching in the third example, and in the fourth example there is a texture mismatch. You can clearly see that these two textures are different. These are pictures taken using digital microscopes at 50x magnification. Okay, what has happened here is that the IC surface was painted using black paint. Okay, and because the paint did not spread evenly on the surface, one portion it is there is a thicker layer and the other portion there is a thinner layer, and in between there is a boundary. Okay, and the portions with the two different layer thicknesses look distinctly different. So this is a texture mismatch on the same IC surface, which are identifiable by proper this type of magnified images. Okay, so then the textures can be analyzed to probably figure out whether this IC was authentic or not. Okay, so so there are two main techniques. One is a physical inspection, like say image processing based thing, and the other is an electrical testing kind of things. And there is also a design for anti counterfeiting. So in this we will look at the first technique and the third technique, which are more common. So first we look at a design technique to prevent counterfeit ICs, especially by circuit pins. Okay, this is particularly relevant for a country like India that imports almost all of its silicon electronics. Okay, we do not manufacture anything. We import the silicon, then assemble, or sometimes we don't even assemble. We import the entire system at our country, right? Good. So can we? The question is, can we have a lightweight hardware security primitive that can act as a fingerprint generator? Uh, okay, to uniquely identify each IC. Okay, for example, each of you have a fingerprint that is linked with your Aadhaar card. You can compare the Aadhaar card to be a serial number. Okay, and using your identification of your Aadhaar number, whether it's an authentic person, it can be done if your fingerprint is checked in addition to your Aadhaar number, right? So that is stored in a database, and then this checking can be done. The physically unclonable function that I'm going to describe, PUF, is a lightweight circuit that can generate this type of electronic fingerprints. It will generate a unique fingerprint in the form of some digital information, which is unique for each IC instance manufactured and marketed. If the fingerprint does not match that in the database, the question can be raised about whether the fingerprint is authentic. And it should be easy to design using standard techniques, but with minimum area and resource overhead, and it should be very very difficult to counter, like clone. Like human fingerprint is impossible to clone. By cloning, I mean that you cannot come up with another human being with exactly the same fingerprint. That is not possible. Okay, similarly, it's not possible to come up with another circuit with the similar signature. So this is a fingerprint generator for an IC. The inputs are called challenges, the outputs are called responses. In general, this is just a digital circuit with a m-bit input and output in m-bit output. The reason why they behave this type of behavior is two reasons. One is the circuit is designed in that particular way. Secondly, the puff circuit. Secondly, the complex and variable nature of the physical material, which results in something called process variation effects inside when these ICs are manufactured, so that this challenge response mechanism mapping is unique from instance to instance, and it can act as a puff. So we will keep looking at silicon puffs. So the puffs should be evaluatable. Okay, given a puff and an input X, you should be able to easily get its output Y. Every puff should be unique. Okay, every puff should be reproducible up to a small error. Every puff is unclonable. Every puff should be unpredictable, one way, tamper evident. Okay, these are some properties. Unclonable means it is not possible to come up with another puff instance, manufacture another puff instance in silicon, but that it will have the same truth table. That is not possible. By unpredictability is a property to which I would like to draw your attention. Unpredictability says that suppose I know the partial truth table of the puff. Okay, the truth table is huge. It's a largely unknown truth table because nobody knows what is the truth table of a puff, frankly. Okay, it's a huge truth table. I know only a small fraction of the truth table, what is the input and what is the corresponding output. Just with this much of training data in machine learning language, I can build a mathematical model of this puff which will be able to predict the rest of the large, huge truth table with extremely large accuracy. Means if you ask it what is going to be the output of the puff for this input, it will give you an answer which will be correct more than say 99% of time. So this is quite amazing. Actually, this technique is called a machine learning attack. Okay, I think it's not mentioned here, but this is called a machine learning based modeling attack of puffs. This is one of the topics in which I have spent a lot of my efforts in recent year. In fact, I had a PhD student who graduated a couple of years back, whose entire PhD thesis was on the development of techniques which are kind of uh, well uh, well suited for machine learning type attacks. Fine. Now, this is one of the most unanswered biggest problems, that will we ever have a puff which will be resistant to machine learning attacks? Actually, most puffs that have been designed till date have been broken by machine learning. So this is a big unanswered question. Okay. I think, unfortunately, I have just now, while after I started my talk, I've received a message. I have to report back to the my HOD's office for a meeting that has been suddenly scheduled at 5 p.m. So I will need to finish slightly early. So I will not go through the detailed electronic design of these puffs. I'd rather come to maybe uh, uh, maybe one example I will provide, because this is commercially available puff. This is called an SRAM puff, where basically you have an array of SRAM cells, and then when you power it on for the first time, it either has 0 or at 1 at the one of the two ends, Q and Q bar. Every SRAM cell has two ends, Q and Q bar. So if you say Q to be the output, then Q bar is its complementary output. Like a flip flop, it has Q and Q bar, two different outputs. Now, in this SRAM cell, whether Q will be at 1 or Q bar will be at 1. Remember, no data has been written on this SRAM cell. Excuse me. You have just switched it on and powered it on. You will find that Q will probably be at 1 and Q bar will be at 0. This power up initial values of SRAM cell is a signature for that bit. You can have multiple bits of it, and then that way you will get a signature for that device. Okay. SRAM fabrication is compatible with digital logic. However, if you are familiar with FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays used for developing prototypes of electronic systems, it is quite difficult to do this actually, because the SRAM modules are on power on, they are actually forced to a logic value 0 on power up. So it's not possible. It is very difficult to design paths, because traditional CAD tool based IC design flow, which is very automated, that is, the digital designs are extremely automated. It is not, they are not always applicable to paths. First of all, remember that how do you design something? How do you write a program in general? Okay, if you consider writing a program, you continuously keep on testing it, whether the output you are getting is correct, whether the behavior of the program is correct. Paths, nobody knows what is the correct behavior of the path. Okay, this question that whether the path is behaving correctly or not is not very. It doesn't make much sense, because if you ask what is a correct fingerprint, right, this will not have too much of a meaning, right? So exactly the similar issue happens with these paths, where it is very difficult to answer actually what is the correct fingerprint of a path. This question does not have any meaning. So whether you are doing any mistakes in the design, catch. Okay. Accurate simulation is very difficult. What will be the output of path? Simulations cannot tell you. You have to make it in silicon and then characterize it. If you have made any mistake, and making ICs in silicon is very difficult, very expensive, unless you do it on FPGAs. Then if you have made a mistake, that's a huge wastage of money actually. Okay, but FPGA implementation of SRAM puff is difficult. Other type of puffs can be implemented, but again, FPGAs are probably not the best platform for puffs. Okay, so it's very difficult. Now let us try to come to one type of IC detection, which is by texture analysis. So earlier I mentioned this, gave this example of picture where there were two ICs, of which on the there was an IC in which on its surface there are two different textures visible under 50x magnification by a digital microscope. Okay, this clearly shows that this extra layer of paint that is present. Something is wrong with this. Uh, so how do you do counterfeit IC detection by texture analysis? Okay. Uh, Many ICs in circulation do not have any puff included. You have to admit that these signature generator circuits are not there in most ICs. Many ICs have started having. In fact, the all Intel processors that some Intel processors already have, and all Intel processors that are going to come to the market from about 2024 onward are going to have puff circuits inside them. Okay, and these puff circuits will help you in a certain way by having a fingerprint to later on validate whether you have an authentic IC, but till now it is not there. Okay, image processing based techniques have been proposed, but they suffer from high computational complexity oftentimes and very expensive image acquisition infrastructure. For example, a industrial X-ray, high strength X-ray based techniques had been proposed for detecting hardware trojans, but those hardware trojans as well as counterfeit ICs, but those require crores of like equipment which is costs crores. So rather, can we do something with a few 100,000 worth of equipment, okay, and do it relatively fast? This is important, okay. In this work now, I'm going to describe a textural feature based identification of images which can be done using ordinary digital optical microscope, which is available in most college campuses. So what is a texture? Well, it's a spatial distribution pattern of pixel intensities. What is spatial distribution pattern? Well, if you look at the three designs or textures shown on this slide, you first have a checker box like a chessboard type of a pattern. If then is a vertical, perfectly vertical stripes, black stripes and white stripes. And the third are slightly slanted horizontal stripes. Okay. Now the question is that, see, if you look at the percentage of area that is white and percentage of area that is black in these three images, all of them have exactly 50% white space and exactly 50% black space. So the amount of white and amount of black is not the concern. The concern is the distribution of these colors. And clearly these three distributions are different from each other. The spatial distribution of these intensities define a texture which our brain can capture. Okay. Now, under an optical microscope, these experiments were done at a facility in University of Florida. Actually, I had a student who had done her masters under me. She actually went for an internship to University of Florida in US. Here they have a collection of counterfeit ICs. See, counterfeit ICs are quite difficult to find. I mean, difficult to find in the sense that how will you know this is counterfeit? That is the first problem, right? It's a chicken and egg problem. There are counterfeit ICs circulating in the market, of course, but how do you know at firstly that these are counterfeit? Somebody has to tell you that yes, this is known to be counterfeit. So certified counterfeit ICs are very difficult to find. However, that university, through donations from several agencies and companies, have built up a collection of certified counterfeit ICs. Means ICs which are guaranteed to be counterfeit. Okay. There, if you take examples, look at the textures. The textures of three ICs of same claim to be from the same company, same model number, etc. were taken. The texture of the golden one, certified golden one is shown, and the certified and two other ICs are known, whose levels are not known. Okay, so let us call them test case 1 and test case 2. Our task is to classify them. So there is a flow which can be automated. Actually, essentially a texture analysis based flow. And if more than one texture segment is present, and if the difference in texture values is beyond a certain threshold, you probably say that this is probably a counterfeit IC. Otherwise, you say that this is probably an original IC, etc., etc. Uh, so this was quite useful. In fact, we applied it to a large collection of ICs, and we found that this more or less above 90% accuracy in detecting what is counterfeit and what is not. However, please note that if the textures do not differ, then of course you cannot catch them, right? So this technique this technique requires that the texture be different from the two on the two surface of the same IC. If the issue was something else, like here, like the manufacturing name mismatch, etc., or there is absolutely no indication whatsoever, which is the most common case, that if you look at the IC, it will look perfectly normal. If you look at its characteristics while executing, what is the power dissipation, what is the delay, those also would look perfectly normal. So counterfeit IC does not necessarily mean that you are getting a product which is extremely bad in performance. That might be the case, but it might not also be the case. However, the issue is trust. For example, you go for your treatment to a medical doctor, okay, and currently the doctor is very busy, is not available. Another person says, I am not a medical doctor, but I give medicines and I can give you medicine. And till now, no person has complained that my medicines are bad. I will check you, I will treat your disease, and accordingly I will give you a medicine, and trust me that this medicine will cure you. Would you have the confidence or the trust to go to the second person knowing fully well that this person does not have any medical training or does not have any medical degree? You would probably not go at all, right? So it is the same situation here. The counterfeit IC, it is not always the case that counterfeit IC will give you bad, poor quality service, and then you will have reason to suspect that this is a counterfeit IC. Most of the time, their performance is as good as the authentic IC itself. So there is no reason to suspect even. It looks to be from the correct company, and it behaves or performs as well as the correct IC. I mean, from an authentic IC. Why should you be bothered? You would bother because still, if you don't know for sure that it is counterfeit, you don't know what it is actually doing in the background. Is it leaking some information? Is it doing something else? Will it cause a failure in future? Maybe because it has a hardware trojan inside it. How do you know? There is no way of knowing, right? So that's the reason why you would like to get rid of this menace of counterfeit ICs and ensure every IC that you are using is authentic. Through this image processing non-destructive technique by texture analysis, we could catch this detect counterfeit ICs with quite high levels of accuracy. I think in this, if I remember correctly, test case 2 was probably detected to be counterfeit. Test case 1 was detected to be non-counterfeit, which was the correct decision because the labels were known the ground truth was known to the people who gave us the samples. Image acquisition was done by my student. That was not available, but they have good image acquisition equipment there in University of Florida, so she did it, and then she applied these techniques to perform the classification. Anyways, the future research direction in hardware security is that CAD methodology to ease PUF design and implementation. This is a very important topic because PUFs are becoming more and more common, but because their design is not very easy to do and cannot be automated, manual design of PUF is a big challenging problem actually. Okay, PUF circuit design that is resistant against intrusive attacks. This is extremely important topic again. There are machine learning, like deep learning algorithms have got exceptional success in breaking or modeling PUFs. There are some variants of puffs called exclusive OR puffs, etc. I'm not got into the detail of these things. They show some resistance to machine learning attack, but even those have been broken actually. Then we should come to machine learning applications for counterfeit IC detection. This is going to be a very important topic. Probably it is already there, okay, and those also should also we should do keep our eyes for. One of the things I'd like to mention is that when people hear about the topic of hardware security, they think that it's it's a hardware topic. Well, there are some aspects of it which require you to design and implement circuits. However, you if you have interest in machine learning or if you have interest in system design, programming in general, there are topics which does not require you to design the hardware circuit. That probably, if needed, can be done by other members in your research group, those who have expertise in VLSI design, etc. And you can concentrate on the machine learning aspect of this. Okay, so I want you to kind of attend this type of lectures if you get the chance on hardware security in future, so that you can explore ways of contributing in because this is a very hot field of research. Okay, and I've not touched upon all many other topics of hardware security also, which are taught all over the world, and if you hear that there is a topic or discussion on hardware security going on, you should attend it and try to see if there is an opportunity for you to contribute in this topic, depending on whatever is your wish. Like if you are a circuit designer, if you are someone who tries to write CAD tools, anything you think would fit your psyche, you should get into it. You and there is a lot to contribute. As I said, a lot of most problems are unsolved, and there is a huge amount to contribute. So that will be the end. I have finished about 20 minutes early, but as I mentioned, I'd like to take about maybe some question answers, and then I maybe, if possible, with your permission, I'll try to wrap it up at 4:50 p.m., which would probably be 10 minutes early. So I now invite questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All of the participants are requested. If you have any question, please put it on the chat box. All of the participants are requested. If you have any question, please put it on the chat box. Please write down your query in the chat box, please. Sir, I guess there is no question from the participant side.
Okay, no problem. I'll maybe share the PDF slides with you, and so that you can distribute it among the participants. And I maintain a website. Let me just paste the URL in the chat box. Basically, if you do a Google search, the with my name, the first result, that's a Google site website. That's what I maintained, and usually keep it quite updated. You will find my contact information here, or you will also find it on my IIT webpage. And do feel free to contact me if any of you have any query. I'll be happy to answer. If any of you are interested in pursuing research at IIT Kharagpur under my supervision, let me know. We can explore the possibilities. As I said, that hardware security is a topic in which whatever is your uh, expertise in or interest in computer science and engineering, electronics, IT, whatever all the related fields, we can probably find some topic where your interest, whatever you're interested in, would be useful. Okay. So, so I would welcome communication from you. Love to hear back from you, and thank you for your time. Uh, I hope we'll meet again sometime. And as I said, I'll unfortunately need to wrap up a little earlier from the schedule time, but we can definitely get in touch later. Okay, thank you very much, and have
Thank
a
you,
good
sir.
workshop.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
Thank you
very
so
sir.
much.
much, ma'am. Yeah,
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and patience. I think a lot of participants will be benefited from this session.
thank you very
So
much.
with this, participants, we hope to meet you tomorrow for our subsequent lectures sessions, and that will commence from 11 a.m., which will be just informed by our coordinator, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear participants, the attendance link will be posted in the WhatsApp group in due course of time within 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you.